Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain, day 288 of the current situation, counting down the days to the new year, and the COVID-19 vaccination plan has begun in Spain. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now let's get into the news, and as I just said, Spain's vaccination plan has begun, and the first person to be vaccinated against COVID-19 in Spain was a 96-year-old lady named Araceli. It was a few minutes after 9 a.m. when Araceli, 96, made history at the Los Olmos residence in Guadalajara. The elderly woman, the oldest resident of the senior centre, had been the first person to receive the coronavirus vaccine in Spain. "I'm very nervous," she said before doing the sign of the cross and receiving the needle prick in front of cameras. But right away she stated that she didn't feel anything, just a little itchy. After receiving the first dose, she thanked God for having been vaccinated. So there we go, the first person to be vaccinated here in Spain, a 96-year-old in Guadalajara. She was a little bit nervous but thankful to have been vaccinated. Now, of course, yesterday the arrival of the vaccine was huge news here in Spain, but one newspaper is saying that the government has turned the arrival of the vaccine in Spain into an act of propaganda. The arrival in Spain of the first vaccines against the coronavirus was handled until this Saturday under the most absolute discretion. Very few knew the means of transport by which the desired drug would arrive, the time or place where it would be received, but the discretion, at least the visual one, ended yesterday Saturday at dawn at the ID Logistics warehouse in Cabanillas del Campo, Guadalajara. It was the moment of the photo. There they proceeded to label a purchase negotiated for months by the European Union as Government of Spain. Neither France nor Germany nor Portugal nor any other neighbouring country did something similar with their respective shipments. We'll take a look here at a photo of the arrival of the vaccines, and we can see clearly that the boxes have been covered with this huge Gobierno de España sticker. So is this yet just another example of the Spanish government propaganda machine in action? I'll let you guys decide. Now, with all of the hype and publicity surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine here in Spain, one group of criminals has decided to take advantage of the situation, and the Civil Guard is alerting of false calls to the elderly to vaccinate against the coronavirus at home. The fraud attempts have so far occurred in the Balearic Islands. The health authorities would like people to keep in mind that the first doses will be administered on Saturday in nursing homes. So the vaccine has only been in the country for a few days, but apparently the scams have already started, and the Civil Guard warning people to be on the lookout for this type of activity. So if somebody calls you and says that they're going to come round to your house to give you the vaccine, don't let them in. Now, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, this new strain of the coronavirus that was discovered in the United Kingdom is now in Spain. We can see here that Madrid has confirmed the diagnosis of 4 cases of the new British strain of the coronavirus in the region. Another 3 people are under study, and the results of which may be known between Tuesday and Wednesday. And the president of the Madrid community, Ms. Ayuso, is holding the government responsible for the entry of the new strain in Madrid. She has denounced the irresponsibility and inaction of Pedro Sánchez and his government, and holds them responsible for the entry into Madrid of the new strain of the coronavirus. She also points out that for months they have allowed Barajas Airport to become a sieve. So again, the Madrid president blaming the government for not being able to control places like Barajas, the biggest airport here in Spain, for not having enough controls and checks in place and allowing this new strain of the coronavirus to enter the country. Now, on Christmas Eve, the king gave his traditional Christmas speech, and it was watched by a record amount of people this year. As we can see here, the king broke his historical audience record, more than 10.7 million viewers. The king's Christmas message was the most viewed since records exist. Of course, everybody tuned into the king's speech to see if he was going to criticize his father, and one headline here says that the king appeared to criticize exiled father in Christmas speech. The monarch asked politicians to behave ethically in what was seen as a rebuke to the alleged wrongdoing of his father, Juan Carlos. King Felipe of Spain used his traditional Christmas Eve speech to make a renewed call for his nation's leaders to demonstrate exemplary behaviour, a message he delivered Thursday night amid financial scandal centering on his father, the country's previous monarch. The king said in a televised address that citizens demand principles that apply to everyone without exception, and that they are above any other considerations, including personal or family bonds. The message was widely interpreted as a rebuke to the alleged financial improprieties that are threatening to tarnish the once immaculate reputation of his father, Juan Carlos. So did he or didn't he criticize his father? He didn't do it directly, and that's one of the big problems that a lot of people have around the country at the moment, that he wasn't able to bring himself to criticize and mention his father directly and talk about all of his wrongdoings throughout his reign. And finally, some good news for everyone who is a lover of Spanish wine, and it is that the best wine on the planet is Spanish. The year 2020 has been complex, but not everything is sad. Spain can now celebrate that Castillo y Gay Gran Reserva Especial 2010 wine from the Marqués de Murrieta winery tops the list of 100 best wines in the world that is compiled by Wine Spectator magazine from the United States. Why was this wine chosen? Well, it was because of its history, character, and for reminding us of the value of commitment, effort, and perseverance. And we can see here what this wine looks like, so the next time you're in your bottle shop or off license, you can check this out. You'll be able to pick a bottle up for about 115 euros. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. First one here from Mobile Phone. There are no PCR checks at any of the airports here in Spain. All you have to do is tick a box in an online form saying that you have a negative test. Nobody checks it. Many are just ticking the box and travelling. I know 3 people that proudly announced they did this after I'd been sitting at lunch with them for an hour. More incredibly inept action from the Spanish government. Yeah, Mobile Phone, thanks for the comment. It does seem to be a problem that those PCR tests are lacking. We saw before that the Madrid president is accusing the government of neglect in this regard, saying that the airports here in Spain, especially the big ones in Barcelona and Madrid, are sieves, and that people are coming through with no checks and the virus is coming into the country freely. And to be honest, I thought things would be a little bit stricter at the main airports here in Spain. I didn't think that you only had to say that you had a negative test and just tick a box. I thought there would be some type of on-the-ground control where you had to show a document proving that you have that negative test. But if what you say there is true, pretty irresponsible behaviour from the government. One here from Jim. I've been told that the over 80s in New Zealand are due to be vaccinated by June. It's unlikely, therefore, that the lesser risk groups will be vaccinated before the end of 2021. The country is basically closed until 2022. Scary. Yeah, Jim, thanks for the comment. I'm not really sure what's happening down there in New Zealand, but I have heard that in Australia they're trying to get these vaccines approved, and I think they're going to start rolling them out in March, April, or sometime around then. New Zealand is a country that has been lauded over the way that they have handled the coronavirus pandemic, closing the borders early and keeping the problem out of the country. I've got a mate down there in New Zealand who tells me that things are fairly normal down there at the moment. People are out and about spending money that they would normally be spending on overseas holidays, going into the local economy, and that obviously is one of the plans of the government as well, to reactivate the local economy. I don't know how long they can keep the country closed for, but obviously that has been the plan from the beginning. Keep the virus out at all costs, wait for people to get vaccinated, and then start to open the country up slowly again once everything gets back to normal. So if we compare the situation here in Spain with the situation in New Zealand, chalk and cheese. One here from John. No vaccination, no vacation. Yeah, John, thanks for the comment, and that could become the catchphrase of 2021. No vaccination, no vacation. Because as we have seen, various companies around the world and some governments here in Spain have been hinting at the fact that you won't be able to attend public events or travel if you don't have the vaccination. The government in Andalusia has mentioned something along these lines. I know that the chief executive officer of Qantas also said something similar. And I'm sure that more companies and more governments will start to implement similar policies throughout 2021. One here from Ed Stewart. Eres una verdadera estrella. Thank you for everything this year. As somebody who loves Spain and was lucky enough to spend a few days in Sevilla just before the lockdown started, it's been great to get your very balanced views on life on the Iberian Peninsula. Keep up the brilliant reporting and prospero año to you and yours. I hope you manage to enjoy any coverage you can find for the next Australia Test match. Yeah, thanks for the comment and thanks for the compliment. Glad to see that you liked the videos, and good to see that you were able to spend a few days in that wonderful city that is Seville before the lockdown. And hopefully you'll be able to get back down to Spain sooner rather than later. And I haven't been following much of the cricket, just a few highlights that I see on the internet. The big problem is the time difference because it's being played in Melbourne, which is something like 10 hours ahead of us here in Spain. So by the time I get up in the morning, it's already stumps, and when I go to bed, play hasn't started yet. But the Aussies did a pretty good job in the first test, not going so well in the second test, but I think that's got something to do with that dodgy wicket that is the MCG. One here from Martin. Ola Stewart, most governments of Europe were slow when the pandemic started. I thought we came out of the first lockdown too early. But once the borders opened again, the cycle was going to start again. Sadly, hearing every day more and more people I know catching the virus, and sadly yesterday a lady friend of ours died. She had COVID and damaged her lungs fatally. Stay safe, guys. Yeah, Martin, thanks for the comment. And sorry to hear about your friends. I agree. I think we came out of that first lockdown a little bit too quickly. We went into a de-escalation phase before the summer months. Everybody forgot about the virus. We were told by politicians that we needed to get outside, we needed to spend money, we needed to get back to some type of normal in our lives. Various politicians in this country, most notably the Prime Minister, Mr. Sanchez, told us that the virus had been defeated, and all of that has led to the current situation where we find ourselves today. But it is what it is. They're now talking about a third wave here in Spain. I imagine that the restrictions are going to be in place for some time yet, and who knows exactly when we're going to have this thing under control in Spain and the rest of Europe. Finally, one here from Thomas. Feliz Navidad. Muchísimas gracias por todos tus vídeos y los esfuerzos requisitos para seguir produciendo estos. Que disfrutes un año nuevo próspero con mucho éxito. Yeah, Thomas, thanks for the comment, having the courage to put it there in Spanish. You're right, there is a fair bit of effort that goes into producing these videos, but I'm going to keep doing them. As long as people watch them, I'll keep doing them, and when the country starts to open up a little bit, I'll start traveling a bit more and bringing some other content to the channel as well. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.